Cities have become more than bricks and mortar. They are their digital presences, and they are constantly performed and reproduced as such. Quaint distinctions between the built and the digital are collapsing, just as software makers are literally becoming city builders. Technology giants like the Big Five are attempting to exploit the potential of the city as a growth model in their business plans. This is linked to the ambition to collect data not only on our online behavior but also on our behavior in physical space, as urban infrastructures now produce data themselves. In order to remain competitive in the era of austerity politics, cities hand over the management of public infrastructure and services to private companies, both decentralizing and depersonalizing the political sphere. Our behavior starts to be recorded. How we drive, how many steps we take, how active we are, what we say, where we go, and so on. The smart city movement represents a corporate takeover, designed simply to advance the agendas of the world's largest technology companies. As an urban planning and governance movement, smart urbanism constructs the city which can be rendered legible and observable, treated as knowable and understandable. From a European or North American perspective, we see recurring utopian narratives that push concepts such as the hyper-optimized, frictionless city, the utopian city of participatory democracy. The aim is for people and places to be totally monitored, measured, and managed. The smart city paradigm is increasingly displacing traditional values that have long dominated European planning. Equality, fraternity, and liberty have been supplanted by values of comfort, security, and sustainability. The city as a melting pot, a space of freedom and emancipation underwritten by anonymity and privacy, is being fundamentally questioned by this new paradigm. A key feature of current neoliberal times is the progressive responsibilization of citizens. This is called active citizenship, and although there are many good things in this, we have to be aware that it also implies many forms of control. Urban citizens become sensing nodes, or citizen censors. China is preparing to use citizen scores to rate residents' trustworthiness. This is the worst-case scenario: obedience gamified, and humanity instrumentalized. Who one is, rather than what one is revealed to others through speech and action and physical identity. Quantifying humans and habitats turns them into what's. There is a risk that we are not going to create machines that are more and more similar to humans, but rather humans who are more and more similar to machines. Dan Doktorov, CEO of Sidewalk Labs, stated in an interview, "Our mission is really to use technology to redefine urban life in the 21st century. Data collection, privacy, and surveillance are at the center of discussion around Sidewalk Toronto. Consistently, these discussions begin with 'What will you do with my data?' rather than with 'Why do you need my data at all?'" In late 2016, on a conference stage in California, decision scientist Hannah Bayer made a bold declaration: "We are going to measure everything we can possibly measure about 10,000 people over the course of the next 20 years or more. We are going to sequence their genomes, track everywhere they go, everything they eat, everything they buy, everyone they interact with, every time they exercise." The "we" she is referring to is the Human Project. This is the promise of big data and artificial intelligence. With a sufficiently large dataset, we can find meaning even without a theoretical framework or scientific method. Personally identifiable information is one thing. Aggregate and anonymized human behavioral data about how people move around in cities is another. Public services must be digital by default, designed with citizens at the center in order to provide public value. There are, however, new approaches to technology management that stand as examples of improvement. Barcelona is instituting policy to guarantee technology systems as a procurement requirement. Resident control of data and technology-driven civic participation. As Francesca Bria explains, we must challenge the current narrative dominated by Silicon Valley's leaky surveillance capitalism and dystopian models such as China's social credit system. Barcelona demonstrates an important distinction for smart cities. Smart city development is not a technological decision, but a political one. Cities should create digital master plans to direct technology policy and collaborative approaches to share infrastructure with other cities. Software code has a key difference from traditional physical infrastructure. It can be replicated and shared around the world. Umbrellas had been a symbol of the resistance movement in Hong Kong back in 2014. Today the umbrellas have reappeared, but this time against a new weapon, that of surveillance. In one clip from 2019, Sparks were flying from an electric saw that someone had started to use on a lamppost that serves as a 4G and 5G antenna, Wi-Fi hotspot, Bluetooth detector and panoramic camera. The protesters dismantled several of the felled lampposts and posted their parts online to find out whether facial recognition technology had been installed. What they don't know is where these sensors are, and what they are technically capable of. This has led to a distrust towards the built environment. Essentially, the protests in Hong Kong reveal strategies to cope with technology that range from the destruction of smart lampposts to the creation of self-controlled sovereign digital territories using apps that forward messages via Bluetooth. So even shutting down the internet would be of no avail for the state in this case. But the essential digital tool for the protesters has become the bulletin board. Registered users can post suggestions anonymously, and if they receive enough upvotes, the post will appear on the front page of the bulletin board. It is an autonomous infosphere that belongs to its inhabitants, a real smart city, born from the fight against the official smart city. An informational right to the city should not simply appear as a famed form of informational capitalism. According to David Harvey, the right to the city is far more than the individual liberty to access urban resources. It is a right to change ourselves by changing the city. We make data, and data makes us. We thus have, and must claim hold of, the right to command the whole urban process. Think twice, and do not behave as Google wants or expects. We must actively enjoy the practice of producing and managing our urban information. It is not enough to expect Google to provide you with a joy of your own.